1 year ago we decided we were going on an adventure. But it wasn't your everyday off to kill a dragon kind of adventure. The kind of adventure where the hero returns home at the end and tells his story for the rest of his days. Oh no, this one is different because we wouldn't be coming back. Whilst we did indeed pack up a sword and our trusty steeds, we stuffed most of our belongings into the back of a questionably overloaded van and set off. A new life, in a new country, and an awfully big adventure. We were headed for Occitanie in the southwest of France. Destination? Château de Pican. Château de Pican sits in the heart of the Gers, shrouded by tree-lined hedges in nearly 7 acres of land. It has a large barn and orangery with a small gardener's cottage that is slowly being reclaimed by nature. The chateau itself has been abandoned for over a decade after the passing of the previous owner. His wife never returned. This was our second visit to Pican, having visited previously in January. It was as cold inside as it was outside. Everything remained exactly as they had left it, a library full of books gathering dust, forgotten coats and clothes hanging in wardrobes, artwork, antiques and curiosities from a lifetime of collecting. It was as if someone had stepped out for an evening and never came home. And then in April, we arrived. Let's just start. Let's just start.
Can I go first?
Jane is going first.
So, here we are, drinking 3 Euro fizz. It's actually very good.
You haven't. You can't open. You can't open with. So here we are. Welcome to Château de Pican. My name is Rory, and this is my wife Jane.
And this is my husband Rory, and myself Jane.
And this is myself Rory, and my husband Jane.
The horses arrived days ahead of schedule, catching us completely off guard. With no time to waste, we scrambled to set up a temporary grazing area, but the electric fence kit was buried deep in the unpacked van. Just in time, we fenced off a makeshift enclosure, only a stopgap until permanent fields could be established. As the panic faded, we turned to the next task, a severe leak in the incoming water main to the chateau. The problem was, no one knew where it was. So we tried some divining intervention.
Now, I personally don't believe in water divining. I think it's a load of old tosh. However, we found these in one of the cupboards, and these are quite posh actually. So I'm going to give it a go. We tried, and unsurprisingly, we didn't find the leak. So we first dug a hole, and then a trench, and then we laid a completely new water pipe. Water problem solved? Not nearly. We flooded the laundry room, we had leaking toilets, and then the car flooded in torrential rain. It was one smelly wet problem after another. And then tragedy struck. Barely a week after our arrival, Mrs. Miggins, our little black cat, was killed in a horrible accident. The loss was devastating. With a bitter pill swallowed, we carried on. We had to carve out a livable space while tackling the renovations. The chateau had 2 kitchens, but only one was remotely functional, and even that was a nightmare. Rotting cupboards, years of damp, and an army of rodents had claimed the space as their own. I ripped out the old fridge cupboard to find the wall behind had been so damp it was falling off. Damp would become a bit of a theme. We spent the first few weeks cleaning, firefighting minor emergencies, and settling into our new home.
The clouds are lifting and you can just about see the base of the mountains and the snowy peaks kind of blending with the clouds. So these are our gates, and that's the chateau. I've been mowing some paths today through what is effectively a meadow. Well, the whole garden is a meadow, basically, but at least we've got some paths. And as I walk around, you can hear cicadas, or maybe they're grasshoppers. Really loud, but you can also hear the frog chorus.
Sadly, relaxing and living a life of luxury in a beautifully renovated chateau is a very long way off. There was and still is a lot of hard work to do. Many of the rooms were unbearably smelly when we arrived, and we needed to remove the offending items, which were often large, fusty sofas. Nothing marvellously old and antique, so we had no qualms about throwing them out of the window. Once you start throwing things out of a window, it's hard to stop. Almost landed on its feet. This is the entrance to a toilet. How exciting is that? It's the downstairs WC, which, is quite horrible and old, and it's been sat on by bottoms unknown over the years. But like every other room in this place, it's wallpapered up to the eyeballs, and there are as many pictures and wall hangings and tat as you can squeeze into a room in this room. It wasn't an understatement to say that the rest of the chateau followed a similar theme, and hard to overstate just how much was left behind by the previous owners. Every room was bursting. With so much to sort through, it didn't take long for a favourite segment to emerge in our videos, Jane's Find of the Day.
Hello and welcome to this week's Find of the Day at Château de Pican.
Each discovery brought its own surprise, turning the search into an adventure of forgotten treasures and unexpected finds, some of which may have genuine value.
$325.
A year in and we're still finding new and unusual things. And then there were the cherubs. They were everywhere. Every room, every wall, every surface seemed to have them. There were even paintings of them. We soon combated the invasion, and we now have boxes of them. The settling in period was over, and it was time to roll up our sleeves and get on with some hard work. There was a lot of plumbing related issues that needed to be resolved sooner rather than later. A fully functional bathroom was high on our list of things we really wanted. That meant out with the old and in with the new. It also meant smashing things. Initially, I was only working on installing a toilet and shower, as we had friends visiting, and I knew the whole bathroom wouldn't be ready in time.
I had designed the new layout for the bathroom and chosen its decor. Rory diligently put the plans into action, creating a gorgeous new shower.
The shower and toilet were ready in time for our friend's arrival, but we then discovered a huge problem. A wooden beam supporting a wall in the bathroom was completely rotten. Poking around, I managed to push my hand right through the wall and out the other side. Luckily, our friends were here to help with the repair. During their stay, we removed and replaced the rotten wood and repaired the wall. And that wasn't all they helped with. One of the rear barn's main roof supports had rotted and collapsed, leaving us with an urgent repair. To reduce the strain on the beams, we stripped off several hundred tiles, lightening the load until the restoration could be completed.
One of the greatest perks of living in this part of France is the breathtaking view of the Pyrenees, right from our bedroom window. In winter, we can hit the ski slopes in just an hour and a half, while the warmer months invite endless mountain adventures on foot. Much to Bunty's delight.
There is so much to see and do here. Spain is under 2 hours away. Lourdes is nearby for those who want a quick pilgrimage to visit the Basilica and the grotto. The ice cream was divine. There are even zoological gardens nestled on the mountainside. There are animals from all over the world. There's even a pair of singing otters.
Back home at the Chateau, we have an endless list of jobs to complete.
The stairs beneath the partially renovated bathroom held a secret. Several of the bottom steps were completely rotten. Years of bad ventilation, water penetration and wood-boring insects had taken their toll, so when another friend was visiting from England, we took them apart. It turned out it was way worse than imagined. The bottom step was so rotten that it couldn't be repaired. I'd have to start again, and the woodworm infestation was still active. We bought an oak railway sleeper to use as a base for the staircase, and I got to work templating the old step. With no experience and no power tools large enough for the job, I went at it with enthusiastic grit. I persevered until the base step was complete. I treated the wood, built wooden supports for the steps, created moulds to repair the damaged wood with resin, and fashioned a new bottom step. Whilst not fully completed, the stairs are now usable and sound. Ever wondered what happens when you take an old hot water cylinder and give it a second life? No? Well, wonder no more. This forgotten tank was destined for scrap until I had a cunning plan. With a little vision, some serious elbow grease and possibly a few questionable decisions, I was going to transform it into the ultimate barbecue, or unexploded World War II bomb. Sparks flew, lots of sparks actually. Metal was carefully cut and suddenly things started to take shape. I added some metal table legs I found in the barn, gave it a flip-top lid, made a handle from a broomstick, added a new grill and voila! A fiery masterpiece ready to cook a duck.
Our current business plan is to let out a part of the chateau for holidaymakers, and so our quest to restore the east wing of the chateau began. We removed all of the furniture, ready to rid the world of these old red smelly carpets. Tearing up the carpet in both rooms was a trial, but underneath we discovered beautiful marble hearths. In one room the floorboards looked to be in perfect condition, and we realised that they too needed to be on show. However, rather than gluing down the edges, the carpet had been glued to the whole floor with copious quantities of adhesive. It took 12 litres of pungent glue solvent, followed by weeks of effort, scraping, washing and sanding, just to get the floor clean. Only then could we finish it with a hard-wearing clear polyurethane coating, finally bringing it back to life. With the flooring complete, we moved on to the walls and ceiling. We added coving to give the rooms a grander feel. Ceiling roses and chandeliers were next. And to finish it off, we indulged in a little light muraling. The dressing room mural is visible from the secret bathroom, which continues the theme of cranes. It's quite a transformation and is wonderfully peaceful, with only the sounds of nature to interrupt your reverie, such as the honking of squadrons of cranes migrating over the chateau.
Good morning, Penny. The horses had escaped again. Without sturdy fence posts, this was becoming a regular occurrence. We solved the problem by bashing in over 100 posts, delineating several fields for the horses to graze.
We always hoped to have 2 rideable horses so we could go out riding together, but Penny, our ex-race horse, had been retired for over a decade, so we needed another one. After a long search for the right steed, we met plenty of lovely horses, but none felt quite right. That was until Karina, our new friend, told us about a horse she'd bred who was back on the market after his owner retired from riding. We met Dizzy at Karina's farm, where he spent his days with his best friends Molly and Molly's mummy, a pair of delightfully cheeky Shetlands.
Brilliant, well done. Do you think you're going to get a prize now?
From the moment we saw him, we knew he was the one. His easygoing, affectionate nature and striking resemblance to Jane's horse, Harry, made the decision effortless. Dizzy was the perfect fit. And he was quite partial to a good squeegeeing too.
The grounds had been left to wild for over a decade, and we're slowly bringing them back under control. We've tackled hedging and bramble thickets to open up the views from the chateau. We've dealt with several fallen and dead trees, and even brought a towering olive tree back under control. My passion for gardening makes the chateau grounds an exciting blank canvas ready to be transformed over time. I decided to attempt a simple formal garden placed so as to resonate with the symmetry of the chateau, but I also wanted the feel of a cottage garden to fit with the pastoral landscape of trees, meadows and water. I worked through the winter on the garden, slowly shaping it and planting out bare root roses and spring bulbs. Finally, the turf was fully stripped and hazel hurdles went up to define the borders. The garden will develop and expand over time, but for now we have the beginnings of a beautiful space.
For most of the year, we relied on a local farmer to cut the acres of grass, as our ride-on mower couldn't cope with the uneven ground. But then we came up with a brilliant idea to save money in the long run. We bought a tractor. The problem was, it was 50 kilometers away, so I had to drive it home. I'd never driven a tractor before, I wasn't entirely sure I was completely legal, and I loved every second of it.
Now we have the tractor to mow the meadows, and the smaller ride-on to keep the lawn in check. When we first viewed the chateau, I realised that the lean-to barn behind the orangery would be the perfect place for horses. With its high roof and open airy structure, it would provide a north-facing shelter on hot days, as well as giving access to the paddocks. However, the barn was rammed with stuff, most of which was useless to us, including mouldy carpets, old machinery, and a huge but sadly rotten old trailer. Part of the roof had started to collapse, and many of the tiles turned out to be in a parlous state. There was gravel to clear, rubber matting to put down, partitions and fencing to erect, and electricity to provide. It was a mammoth task, and even after we replaced hundreds of tiles, the roof is not entirely waterproof. However, it has lived up to its promise, with the horses choosing to stand in the barn during hot or rainy weather. They seem entirely happy with it. We had wanted the Grand Salon to be ready in time for Christmas. I'd had new curtains made and I needed to conquer my fear of heights in order to fit them. The original mirror above the fireplace had been missing for ages, but I'd managed to source one of a similar size. It was extremely tricky to manoeuvre into position and nearly ended in catastrophe. But eventually it was secured firmly to the wall. All that was left to do was to add some new furniture and a sprinkling of Christmas decorations.
The past year has been utterly unforgettable. We've had so many new experiences and made some wonderful new friends. We've hiked through breathtaking French mountains, paddleboarded in pristine French lakes, We've ridden across the French countryside, partied and danced the night away with our newfound French friends. We've pushed our own boundaries. I became a roofer, a carpenter, a tractor driver, and a lumberjack.
There have been hard times too. We said painful goodbyes to our beloved Bonnie and Mrs. Miggins. Yet our family has only grown. 2 lively spaniels joined us to keep Bunty company. 2 mischievous kittens to torment Lord Percy. And at last, another horse, Dizzy, so Rory and I can finally ride together.
None of this would have been possible if we hadn't taken the leap, sold up, quit our jobs, and bought a French chateau.
Now we just need to make it a going concern. Our gîte will be open in August, so if you fancy coming to stay, please get in touch.